Hello, everybody. Nice to see you here today. My name is Amy from RealEnglishConversations.com, and today I have a really cool live lesson for you today. Not only are you going to be able to listen to me for a little while, but I have two special guests that I've invited with me, and they're going to be talking to you about some of their experiences so that you can hear from them some of their tips and advice about speaking confidently and what they've done to grow their confidence to communicate. So let's see here. Who do we have? I think that it takes a few minutes for the statistics to show up. But if you guys want to send a message in the chat comment area to say hello and let us know that you can hear us okay and that you're here, introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, say hello, and we'll get started. So just so that everybody knows a little bit about me, I'm going to go into my story step by step about the process I went through for learning Spanish. But in general, as a summary, I was somebody who learned in Canada. I'm a Canadian and they don't speak Spanish in that country, but I was able to learn the language there. I wasn't spending significant amount of time being immersed or anything like that. And it took me a very, very long time to learn languages and figure out methods that were very, very practical that led me to success. So I'm going to be talking today about speaking confidently, speaking with more confidence, building your confidence. Maybe some of you that are watching right now, you've been too scared to practice speaking. Maybe you still haven't spoke with anybody. You've just been reading and writing and practicing English, but you haven't had a real conversation because you're too scared. This lesson is going to be very good for you. And also for people that maybe they have a certain level of English already and you're able to have a conversation, but you just feel horrible every time that you are speaking. So this lesson is also going to be really good for you. So I'm just going to take a second to say hello to all the people. I can see the comments are coming in here. So we have Musini, hello. And we have Jose from Uruguay. Okay, and I haven't seen this before. Blue Pro. So, it's Smith. Wow, it's like his code name. Smith, you're supposed to be joining us. If you feel like joining us, you're more than welcome. You can send, 1 second, let me post. Curtis, can you post your email and Smith can send you an email if he wants to join. It would be great to have you. So anyway, let's get started with the presentation for today. I'm going to share a little bit of experience about what I went through learning Spanish. So let's go here. Oh, wrong one. There we go. Okay, guys. So today we're going to be talking about speaking English with more confidence. And this means that we need to do some mindset changes to adjust the way that we think about ourselves, especially when we feel like we're lacking confidence. And we are going to talk about the types of activities that you need to do to overcome this lack of confidence that you have, and steps to build confidence and your speaking skills at the same time. And lastly, we're going to get some advice from other students, because it's one thing to hear the advice or what I'm saying from my perspective, because I'm the teacher and apparently I know, but to hear it from other people, the people that are your peers, I think this is something that's really, really important. Okay, so a little bit about my story, okay? I am Canadian and I come from a region where they only speak English. I do not speak French. I was not raised bilingually. A lot of people believe that Canadians speak English and French, but only in a certain part of Canada. And actually in that one part of Canada in Quebec, a lot of people there only speak French. Maybe they know a little bit of English, but French is their mother tongue. So the people in Canada, we really have two languages, and some people are bilingual, but not everybody. And I am not one of those people that was raised bilingually. So I learned languages the same way that I was taught in school for many, many years. This means that when I started my Spanish classes back in grade 8, I think, I figured that this was the method of learning languages. Obviously, that's what they do in schools. They teach you how to learn. So I figured that was the right method. So in 5 years of my Spanish classes, we managed to learn only the present and past tense verbs, which is pretty pathetic, actually, in retrospect. And now I know that that was only a very small portion of the grammar and of the language. So the classes in school, they tend to move very, very slowly, and this is another reason why they don't work so well. And as you can imagine, after 14 years of continuing to study Spanish, not all the time, but I mean, I did 5 years in my Spanish class. I took a break for a few years and then regained some interest to travel and started to study on my own. So 14 years, I say, I still couldn't speak or understand people, which was really, really frustrating for me. The reason why I'm telling you guys this is because I want you to understand that I'm not a language superhero that just naturally goes into a place and absorbs the language. I am a human being, just like you guys. I have some bad ideas when it comes to how to study languages, as you're going to see here. So after 14 years of studying Spanish in the same way they taught me in school, I still couldn't speak. So the next logical step for me was to study more grammar. And I decided, hey, I'm going to memorize the 14 verb tenses of Spanish. And then after that, I think I'm going to be qualified to start speaking. As you can imagine, that didn't work out so well for me, but here we go. So my first interaction with speaking, okay, I spent almost the entire time speaking in English. Fortunately, the person I was talking to had an intermediate level, so he was able to maintain the conversation mostly in English. And, you know, he insisted, Amy, you have to use some of your Spanish. Please say something in Spanish. So when I tried, I realized I could barely put a sentence together. This is something that after you've been studying a language for years, you really feel pretty disappointed in yourself at this point, I can tell you. So low confidence for me at this point. And I was very nervous. I was scared. I was embarrassed. And my heart was jumping out of my chest the whole time I'm trying to speak in this foreign language. But I survived. Okay, so these feelings that I had, this is something that's very normal, especially when you have your first interaction speaking in a language, because you don't know if they can understand you. You don't know if you can express yourself. You fear that awkward silent moment where you have no idea what the person said and you don't know what to say. So all of that is really, really uncomfortable. But I promise you, if you do it and you do it again and again and again, you will survive as well, and your speaking is going to improve. So I have had this situation and these feelings happen again and again. Okay, so here, for example, when I remember it was several years after I had been studying Spanish on my own through a website that I signed up for, and I went to Costa Rica and I had to ask a gas attendant for directions. And when he spoke to me, it was like a wall of Spanish that I didn't understand a single thing. So he ended up using a piece of paper and he drew some train tracks on there, and he was going choo choo to try to communicate to me that I had to go up over the hill, cross the train tracks, and get to some road. So, I've faced this situation with no communication ability in many different situations. Another time, if you guys have listened to any of our conversation lessons, the family vacation, or no, which was it? The airport travel conversation that we had, I talked about renting a surfboard, and I thought my Spanish was better at this point, but the lady was literally looking at me like I was speaking Russian or Chinese or something. Like the expression on her face was like, "What? I don't know what you're saying." And it was very disheartening to have that type of reaction after studying for so many years. I was terrified of speaking on the phone for years. I don't know why. I have a phobia of speaking on the phone. Just probably in the last year and a half, I've managed to overcome my problem, but I still really don't like speaking on the phone. But I've had to confront that issue over and over again. And I probably have about 50 other scary interactions that I've managed to survive in my Spanish speaking and learning adventure. So the point is that these uncomfortable situations are going to happen many times to you before you start to feel truly confident in them. And you just need to keep trying. And I promise you, you are going to get better. And these situations are going to get easier to handle, even if they are still a little bit scary. Okay. So one of the things about building your confidence, or something that I realize with myself, is that my expectations were way higher than what my skills actually were related to speaking and communication. So maybe I knew 3,000 words. Maybe I could conjugate every verb perfectly in the textbook. And I expected that my speaking skills somehow develop that same level of speaking. And it just doesn't happen that way. So it's okay if your every other skill in English is at an advanced level and your speaking is lower. Maybe it's beginner even, or pre-intermediate, or just intermediate, and you have a difference between what you know and what you're able to use with your speaking. Give yourself a break here. You have to recognize that you didn't go from a beginner level in the other skills to advanced immediately. It took time and practice. And with speaking, it's the same thing. So start with beginner expectations, move to pre-intermediate, move to intermediate, and keep going step by step. You are going to improve. It does take work and time. So be patient and give yourself a little bit of a break here. So if we look at some of these other activities, like learning how to walk, we didn't just learn how to run, like, you know, going from a baby, you have to learn how to crawl, you learn how to walk, you fall, you walk, you fall. Anyone that's had kids knows what it's like for them to learn how to walk. And I mean, even as adults, we still mess up and we fall sometimes. So we're still learning how to walk. Driving a car is a little bit more complicated because you can hurt other people and you can hurt yourself. You've got this big machine with you, and if you don't know how to drive it, it can be kind of scary. But after practice, it becomes automatic. What about for all the doctors out there that are maybe having to perform a surgery? If it's the first day of medical school and you tell them to perform a heart surgery, that's probably not going to go very well for anybody. It takes training, practice, 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 and doctors are working under the supervision of other people for a very long time. So for them to expect that they're going to be able to do a surgery immediately, translating to English, speak fluently immediately, is not going to happen. You need to practice. And okay, so another thing here is that you think other people are judging you. Okay, judgment is something that's really hard because you're looking across the room, you see the people and you think, oh man, that person thinks that my English sucks. Okay, and so what if they do? What does it change? If that person thinks that your English is bad and you're speaking and that nervous energy is actually decreasing your performance, it's even worse if you let this really take over your mind. So who cares? They're judging me. I'm learning, okay? Just remind yourself, you're learning and it's okay. And you can't control what they think. So if you can't control a situation, it's not really worth worrying about it and stressing out. So try to ignore that judgment the best that you can and just focus on your communication and what you need to do. And this is something that was a really big breakthrough for me. It's the fact that you really, really need to stop caring so much and be nicer to yourself. So if you're constantly saying bad things about your English, how terrible it is, that's not going to help you to build your confidence. Be nicer, be more forgiving, remind yourself that you're trying, okay? And stop caring. When I say stop caring, it's like you have your inner perfectionist and that is making you care about your performance. So I'm going to explain a little bit about the process that happened with me. So I literally suffered with this feeling of low confidence speaking for years, and I am an almost perfectionist. I recognize I can't do things perfectly, so I don't try to be perfect, but I really have high standards for myself and expectations. So it's really difficult for me when I make mistakes or I can't remember something. So I say that I'm an almost perfectionist. And one day, I don't know what had happened in my life, but one day I got tired of trying to be perfect, okay? So when I was speaking, I felt tired after, I felt disappointed with myself, and I was just like, you know what? I don't care. I just stopped caring. I was just going to speak and not worry about my mistakes. Maybe I would correct myself sometimes, maybe not, but I was just going to practice speaking. And that was a really important step for me, was to stop caring. And boom, my fluency skyrocketed. Like, I am not kidding you. I went from, okay, I can speak and put things together, to a huge improvement just because I stopped caring. And what was really interesting was my confidence and not caring were very, very closely tied together, because when I cared about it, I was like, oh, I'm doing such a bad job, very critical on myself. But when I stopped caring, it didn't matter. I just let it go and it was fine. I was still able to be understood. I was still hearing the errors coming out of my mouth while I was speaking. And with time, that clears up a little bit. So even though I was speaking with much more fluency, I was still making errors, but nothing critical. The communication was there. And trust me when I say that these mistakes that you hear coming out of your mouth, even if you say them 100 times, you say the same thing incorrectly 100 times, as long as you hear it when it leaves your mouth and it comes out and you go, oh man, how can I make that mistake over and over again? I know better. As long as you can hear it, your brain will correct it over time. Just keep trying. Be attentive to it and keep trying to say it correctly. Okay. So I was supposed to break down this slide, but I didn't, so I'm going to go through it here with my explanation. So we need to think about the speaking and confidence progression with practice. So the first time that you said a short sentence spontaneously, remember how difficult it was when you're just trying to role play with yourself or think about how to construct something together. It was probably really, really difficult. But the fact that you're trying gives you a little push forward here with your speaking and your confidence. And after more practice, especially speaking alone, this process becomes easier to express your thoughts, to remember things, and that sort of thing. Now, what happens here is the arrows start to go back here, because speaking with real people with pressure is actually going to lower your speaking performance, because when you add some nervous feeling, your brain doesn't function as well, the words aren't available. So the thing that you have to expect here is that if your speaking is like this when you're alone and you're really sensitive to how nervous you are speaking in front of people, you have to expect your level to come down a little bit. And if you expect it to come down and your performance matches what you expect, you're not going to feel so bad about how that conversation went. Practice with more people. This is the solution. So if your performance is good when you're speaking alone, and it's really bad when you speak with real people, you need to practice speaking with real people more often so it starts to feel more comfortable and natural. Because the more that you do something that's uncomfortable, it really helps you to feel more comfortable with that. So practice, practice, practice with more real people, and eventually that fluency bar is going to move up here. So just remember, your mindset here is that when you speak with real people, your speaking will be worse than when you speak alone, and that's totally normal and okay. Okay. So, common problem. You might think, I don't know if other people can understand me, or I don't know if other people will understand me. And what we need to do here is talk to someone and say something, and hopefully they understand you. And if they don't understand you, it might be that you don't know enough yet because you're a very, very beginner, or your pronunciation needs to improve a little bit. But most of the time, for most people that have been studying English for a while and trying to say things the best that they can, when you talk to someone, you're going to say something and it's going to be understood. It's not really an obstacle, but you need to test those words and make sure that they're understood so that you can verify this for yourself. I remember when I had my first conversation, that was actually a really big obstacle for me. I was saying a word in Spanish and I'm thinking, I've never said this to a native speaker. Felt like I'm just saying some words and sounds, and I didn't know if they would be able to understand me. So I needed to go through that process of saying things and confirming they could understand to build my confidence in that area. Another problem is that you can't remember words when you're speaking. Really common. This actually relates to the previous slide. So what you can do here is you can prepare ahead for situations when you can. If you know you're going to have to call a mechanic, for example, think about what the person's probably going to say and what words you might need, for example. And you also need to practice speaking with real people more often, because this is really just the pressure of speaking with real people that's affecting your performance and making you forget words that you actually know. And you can speak alone to extend your vocabulary without that pressure being present. So this is actually one of the reasons why I encourage people to practice speaking alone in as much detail as they can for their level, is because when you're alone, you have no pressure, and all of those words that are, you know them, but you don't know them very well, you can kind of pull them out of your brain and insert them into the activity that you're doing while you're speaking. And by doing that on your own, you're increasing the likelihood that you're going to use that word in a conversation. Because I don't know about you guys, but I don't like using words that I've never said with anybody before for the first time in a conversation. I don't even know if it's going to come out of my mouth correctly, but sometimes you have to. But in general, I think that this is a great way to build your confidence with your speaking skills to do that. Okay. So another problem is that you feel like an idiot when you're speaking, and it's so embarrassing. I think that most of us feel this way when we're starting out speaking. I think it's a normal feeling that adult learners have, and we need to remember these things. So why do you expect perfection? Why are you expecting to be perfect? Just you're communicating. That's what you're doing. It's not going to be perfect, but as long as they can understand you, that's the important point. Remember to lower your expectations. I'm talking with real people. I'm not going to perform as well as I want to, but I'm just going to lower what I expect from myself a little bit so that it matches what the performance is. And then, of course, continue to practice on your own. Remind yourself that you're still learning. Learning a language is a massive process. It's not something that you're going to be able to learn in a month. It's not something that, for most of us, you're not going to learn in a year unless you're living in a complete immersion environment, maybe. But learning takes a really, really long time. So it's okay. People that are learning things, we expect them to make mistakes. So if you're mad at yourself for making mistakes, just remind yourself that you're still learning, and it's okay. And remember, it gets easier every time that you speak. You're going to feel less like an idiot and less embarrassed every time that you practice speaking. Okay, so some small steps that you can take if you're still not practicing speaking because it's just too overwhelming for you or you're too shy. So you could join a practice group where no one knows you. These people don't know you, so why should you care what they think about what you think is awful English? Just go and practice and talk and overcome these feelings that you have. You can also hire a teacher. This can help you to break the ice and really have that first communication with someone in a supportive and safe environment, and they can meet you at your level. If you're a very beginner, they can work with you, and the teacher is not going to be judging you. Another place, and one of the cool things that we do on our website, we have a WhatsApp speaking practice group. And I've noticed a lot of people come into that group that have a fairly low level and they leave a voice message. And I know that for them, sending that voice message was a really, really big step and something that's really difficult. But every time you send one of these voice messages to the people in the group, it's like overcoming that little fear that you feel when you need to communicate. But because you don't know the people really, and it's a safe place where your message is going, nobody is going to tell you that your English is terrible in that group, it can help make this small step of taking a small action a lot easier. So if that's interesting, then you might be interested in this part. So you guys know we have the premium membership available, and you are going to be able to get access to our member-only WhatsApp speaking practice group. We post an exercise every couple days for people to talk about things. It's not too much content, but it's enough where you can post a message, you can respond to other people, and it's a good place just to practice regularly on the go. And you can also join our exclusive member events that we have, like live practice sessions or conversation practices with our other members. They're just small group conversations, and you can join either myself or Curtis in these conversations. And you're also going to get access to the 14 online English courses, which are focused on speaking fluency development from pre-intermediate to advanced. Improving listening skills. We have a ton of audio on our website and a lot of resources for this. It just keeps growing, and we have more lessons and more materials. It's quite a big resource list that we have now. And another thing is that you're going to learn some efficient language learning strategies, which is really an important thing, so that you're not like me, stuck at a certain level for 14 years because you can't figure out how to learn. So I'm going to share all of that information and the tricks that I've discovered along the way. All right, so oh yeah, last point. We have a coupon code right now, stay at home, and if you do this, you can get 20% off all the memberships. We have a monthly payment plan, which makes it more affordable for all of the people that would want to join. And after you make your payments, you have lifetime access. So you can head over to the website to check us out. Okay, now that's enough rambling from me. We're going to talk to some of our students, and let me stop sharing this screen here. Okay, I'm going to bring them on. 1 second here. Okay. There we go. No, this one's better. Hi. Hello, ladies. Hi. How are you doing today?
Hello.
Good. Hello. So we have Miriam and 𝐵e𝒸𝑒𝑒 here. And 𝐵e𝒸𝑒𝑒𝑒, I always say your name wrong. How do you pronounce your name?
I love it how you say it. So
really?
We say, yeah, but we say 𝐵e𝒸𝑒𝑒𝑒.
𝐵e𝒸𝒸𝑒𝑒𝑒. Okay. I like it. Okay. And Miriam, your name, how do you say your name in Spanish?
In Spanish is Miriam, but Miriam. I know in American English, some people say to me, small, medium, tall, and I decide to introduce myself by Miriam.
Miriam. Okay, perfect. Yeah, because otherwise they might get confused. You're right. Okay, cool. So Miriam, and I'm going to say 𝐵e𝒸𝑒𝑒𝑒 because for me that's like the English pronunciation of your name. So Miriam and 𝐵e𝒸𝑒𝑒𝑒 have actually been members of our website for a while, and obviously the fact that they're here with us today shows that these ladies have some really good speaking confidence, and I think that they're going to be talking about their experiences and telling us a little bit about how they used to feel and some of their tips for you guys, which is really great. I haven't actually looked at this chat for a while, so I can see it's going crazy here. Oh, wow. Speak Up French. Hi, Pauline. Oh, got Michał here from Poland. Nice to see you. Andres, Arthur. Tons of people here. Long.
Cool.
And God, look at you guys. You're like rock stars right now. Okay. And say hello in the chat to our special guests here so that they feel comfortable with us and know that you guys are excited about what they have to say. All right. So let's start. Which one of you ladies wants to go first? 𝐵e𝒸𝑒𝑒𝑒 or Miriam?
It's okay.
Whoever?
For me. Do you want to start, 𝐵e𝒸𝑒𝑒𝑒?
Miriam. first.
Okay,
Ladies
okay, I
first.
will.
Rock,
I
paper,
will.
scissors. Ladies
Okay.
first. Okay, so
Mm.
hold on one second, Miriam. Let me figure out how to adjust the screen. Okay, so I'll go like this. Okay, good.
Okay.
So would you be able to just start by introducing yourself quickly to everybody that's watching?
Mhm. Well, my name is Miriam and I am from Spain. I'm living in Barcelona, but I originally am from Logroño in the north of Spain,
Mhm.
and I am teaching right now mathematics online because with this situation I have to teach mathematics online. This,
Oh, okay.
yes.
So you've moved your regular job to a home-based business and you're
Mhm.
doing your teaching and tutoring online. That's cool. Awesome. And how long have you been learning English? What does your English learning journey look like?
Oof, I've been learning English since I was a teenager, and
Mhm.
it was impossible to speak in English until 2 years ago that
Mhm.
I found out that there was a way to speak and learn English without textbooks because I hate study grammar. Then I found your program and I found other resources on internet, and it's when I started to learn English and I started to speak in English.
Ah, that's awesome. Well, you've done really well over the past 2 years since you've joined our group. I feel that you are speaking really well and you're always leaving very long messages for us and very descriptive. So good job.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So do you remember how you felt the first time that you had to speak in English? I imagine you were in school probably, but I mean some sort of real situation where you needed to speak in English.
Awful, awful. I was so embarrassed, nervous, scared. I remember the first time I tried to speak, I stuck. Words don't
Yeah.
come easy to my mind. I forgot all the vocabulary I know. It was like my mind got in blank,
Yeah,
and it
your
was
mind
like
went
I
blank.
can't speak. Yes, I can't speak, and that is
Yeah.
how I felt. Mm.
Okay. And obviously, you're not feeling that way right now. You're doing pretty well. So, what do you think that you did that really helped you to improve your confidence or to reduce those feelings, those horrible feelings that you had when you were just starting? Do you have any things, activities that you did, for example?
Mm. Well, I started to speak, as you said,
Hmm.
and at the first, it was very difficult for me because I couldn't speak, but I started again and again and again, and then I don't know why the words were in my mind, and when I tried to speak, I could remember the words and I could mix words to make sentences. And
Hmm.
then I remember I started to practice your three repeat technique.
Oh, the repeat it three
And
times. Hmm.
the repeated screen time. And it was like the first I prepare what I want to say. And then I repeated once and then twice and then three times. And I remember the third time I repeated, I could speak not only what I've been prepared, but
Yeah.
more words are more things, and that is was really work for me to speak,
Yeah.
speak, and speak.
Exactly.
Mhm.
I really like that technique. I find that it's a huge
It's
speaking
great.
confidence builder because, I
Mhm.
mean, the same thing happened to me. Where it actually happened was I knew that I was going to be talking to somebody later on in the evening and they were going to say, "Hey, what are you working on?" And my answer was going to be, "I started to read Harry Potter in Spanish." And I was an intermediate at this point, so that was a big deal. And what's the next question naturally? "Oh, really? What's it about?" And I thought, I don't know what he's going to ask this question and I'm not going to be able to answer. So I tried and I realized it was like, I don't know this word. Look it up. Oh, okay. And it was like that every single phrase that I had read the word for wizard and owl and whatever else is in Harry Potter 1,000 times already, but I couldn't recall it when I was speaking. So after practicing it, once I figured out what I needed to say, after practicing it twice, it was better, but I kept practicing and I really found that third time was the magic for the flow and the confidence and this feeling of success rather than a feeling of being a complete failure. So yeah, exactly. Okay. And are there any other activities or things that you've done that have helped you to feel that it's helped your confidence?
Yes. Well, I try to start little by little. I mean, I didn't try to read an article of a newspaper, but a tale. Or I didn't try to watch a whole movie in English, but a 1 minute YouTube video. Then I remember you telling us, oh, maybe you have to stop, work the words, the sentences, and then try to listen again or to read it again. And that it worked very, very, very well for me. Very, very well.
That's awesome. Yeah. It sounds like you learned how to go a little bit deeper with your studying. And yeah, because it's easy when you're reading an article. I mean, I can do the same thing. I can read an article, I can understand it, but when I'm finished reading it, I don't really learn much. I just leave and those words are gone. So we have to go a little bit deeper sometimes, and especially to try to use it speaking. Otherwise, it doesn't come out of your mouth. Okay. And the last thing is,
wait, and the other thing that helped me a lot, it was your WhatsApp group, because here where I live, I can't speak English with anyone. So the fact that I can record an audio in English is great for me, because it's like a challenge for me. And I know sometimes when I leave a message, I don't get feedback from the other memberships because they have their own life and maybe they don't. But I know that some of them listened that audio and they can learn with that audio, and I learned living that audio, and this is, for me, it's fantastic to have that opportunity.
Exactly. Like, it's cool when someone comments back, but really it's the process of the preparation and doing the activity that's the most important thing. So yeah, that's great. No, your messages are very great. You post something like, some of the pictures that you've posted, like, what was the one a couple weeks ago? It was like a power plug or something. And Miriam had this huge story about it. She was like, we said, hey guys, post a picture and tell us what it's about. And she posts a picture of a plug. Like, most of us are mountains or a lake or something. And it was like, I had to go to the hardware store and we had this problem and I changed the plug-in. And then, so it was great that you did that. So do you have any words of advice for anyone who has low confidence with speaking, or any words of encouragement for those people you'd like to share?
Yes, I think you should keep calm. You should give time to your learning, because it takes time and practice, and focus on what you want to say and focus on the people or the person you are talking to, because if you focus on yourself, then you get stuck and words don't
like
come
focused
out.
On your own feelings and fear rather than the communication.
Exactly. You have to forget yourself and think on the message and on the person, and then words flow.
Exactly.
It happens to me.
Yeah, I agree. I find that when we're focused in the conversation at that moment, then we're really just paying attention to the communication. We're trying to understand what they're saying. We're trying to share our ideas, even if they're not perfect. And everything is really, really a lot better and more enjoyable as well.
Yeah, and you forget your mistakes, because if
Yeah.
you are, I made that mistake, then you get stuck and nervous. And if you don't think in your mistakes, it's okay. Keep talking, keep talking, keep talking.
Keep going. Whatever, it's fine. The conversation continues. Life goes on.
Yes.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your experience. You did great. And I mean, everybody here in the group, send a nice message about Miriam, how brave she is to be here and how well she's speaking. Good job. I'm really proud of you and the progress that you've made. So
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
We'll see you later. Thank you.
Bye. See you later. Bye-bye.
Hi, Birgit, you're up.
Hello. So first of all, I want to say hello to everybody who welcomes us here by saying, hi, Birgit. Hi, Miriam. Hello. So I will say a short hello back to all the members here.
Awesome. Thank you. That's great. And would you be able to introduce yourself a little bit so that people know who you are, where you're from, maybe something interesting about you?
Something interesting about me. So first of all, my name is my name is Birgit. I'm from Germany, and unfortunately, I have never lived in a foreign country. I would love to, but I've never lived anywhere else than in Germany. So as a teenager, I started learning English at school for actually a couple of years. But I never used it.
Right.
And that's the problem. So I can remember that you asked Miriam about her experience.
Yeah.
The first time.
So, for example, for you, what was it like the first time that you had a real experience speaking in English?
It was
That's how we all feel.
2014 or something. So we went to London with another couple, and I thought I was very confident at this time, and I thought, okay, you studied English at school for many years. It was 30 years ago, you have to know. And when I started to ask some people, or some guys asked us, hey, where are you from? And my husband, my friends, they were very silent.
Right.
So I had
they
to
weren't
speak,
saying anything.
And I said, from Germany. Okay, what are you doing here? I said, hey, guys, help me out here. Nothing. I had to speak. And then I realized, oh my God, I wasn't able to have a conversation. I only said holiday. And then everything was gone. And it was, yes, I felt embarrassed. And I felt like shit. Because after studying for such a long time, there was nothing.
Right, exactly. Like for you, it was like the same sort of thing that happened to me in Costa Rica at the gas station. It was years and years and years of studying. And then the wall of noise comes at you and you're like, he's probably saying something about filling the car, but I have no idea what he said. And then I remember saying, fill up the car, please, was some sort of line that I had learned from an audio. And he looked at me like I was from Mars. And he figured probably because my car was there, I wanted gas, It was pretty bad.
I see.
Yeah. So talking about the progression then for how you managed to improve your speaking, what sort of things did you do to get from that point where you were on your holiday and you realized, ooh, okay, my perceived ability and my actual ability are totally different? What did you do to change that?
Oh my gosh. So I think I did a lot of stuff. I started reading books, but that wasn't successful either because I had to look up every, I don't know, second or third word.
Yeah.
So it wasn't fun reading, Then I started learning or listening to audiobooks. And, there are a lot of online teachers out there.
Mhm.
So I tried a lot of stuff. And
Oh yeah, your list of other teachers that you've tried and programs is pretty
oh yes,
pretty impressive.
there's a lot. So this, on one hand, it's a good thing to have different, maybe teaching styles or something.
Mhm.
On the other hand, you can get lost
Right.
watching
Yeah.
tons of videos, YouTube or
Overwhelmed.
whatever.
Mhm.
So I think your very important thing is that you have to speak. So I
Mhm.
was looking for a language exchange partner.
Mhm.
It's not easy. It's really not easy,
Mhm.
but I found two very nice guys. So
Yeah.
they were interested in learning my language, and so we can help out each other
Mhm.
talking. I took lessons. I bought your program. And yeah, I have to admit I'm very impatient, and so I got lost for a couple of months, I guess. Guten
Yeah.
Morgen, Isaac. Good. So, but I think you have to stick with something. You have to
Uh-huh.
do different things, like
Yes. Yeah.
speaking, listening, singing
Mhm.
is great, shadowing is great.
Yeah.
To repeat conversations is cool. To
Mhm.
speak, give summaries about something.
Mhm.
Oh, there's a lot. We don't have
There's a
all the
lot of
time. There's a lot.
activities. It's
Yes.
crazy. Yeah. And what do you think about people that are waiting for a native speaker to practice with? Like the ones that, for example, for you, how often do you run into people to practice English with in Germany where you live?
Oh, there's no one. No,
Okay.
no, no native speaker. No native speaker. And
Uh-huh.
besides, if you talk to a native speaker or to another person that is learning English, there's
Mhm.
no one that expects you to speak perfectly.
That's right. Nobody
It is
does.
like, if in Germany there is a foreign guy or girl or whatever, and when I see that they try to speak my mother tongue, I'm excited. I
That's
think it's
right.
great.
It's
It's great.
cool.
And I would never think, oh my God, that sounds so crazy. She's making a mistake or whatever.
Yeah.
No one cares. It's only
No.
us. We think
It's
we have to be
us. We
perfect.
are the
Yes,
hardest
it's
critic
in
on
our
ourselves.
brain.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know. There's another thing too. I actually feel that doing the speaking practice on your own versus speaking in conversation, I feel like the practice on your own is to kind of see what you can do and deal with some problems that you have. And when you have the conversation on your own, it's more like the performance mode. So you don't have time
Hmm.
to look up words in the dictionary. You can't remember everything. You can't delete mistakes, but you just have
No.
to keep going forward. So it's about some preparation, practice, realize, oh, I'm still not very good. Okay, hang on. More preparation, practice, come back, try again. And it's like rinse and repeat over and over. You keep doing this progress. So for you, I mean, I think that you speak very well, both you and Miriam. I think that you communicate well. Your personality shows through. It's not like robotic, trying to think and just say something. You're having
Mm.
fun while you're communicating. When did it start to become fun for you to communicate in English?
I would say 2 years ago,
Okay.
when I was able to visit my language partner in Florida.
Yeah.
And yes, it's 2 years ago, and he has a partner and he cannot speak German. So one evening, my
Mhm.
friend Roy went into his room and said, I meet with some friends online, so you have to talk to Darko. And I said, okay. And we sat there for 2 hours,
Uh-huh.
and it was so interesting.
Mhm.
And my goal was to go there to practice
Mhm.
my English to get better and so on. And
Uh-huh.
while sitting with him with a nice cocktail, which was great, and we talked, everything about the learning stuff was gone.
Right.
We talked about relationships, their lives, my life, and
Uh-huh.
now really it's a friendship. and
Yeah.
then it started. I didn't feel like, oh, did I make a mistake? Did I pronounce this correct?
What
So
does my
after,
friend think of me? He must think
yes,
I'm
I
awful.
didn't think about that. It was all about having a conversation, and I knew that he wouldn't care if I would make mistakes. So practicing,
Exactly.
of course, you have to start with small steps, and therefore the WhatsApp group, I think, is very a good
Mhm.
thing.
A
So you
small step.
can,
Exactly.
yes, really small steps, shoot a message, and this is a start, I guess.
Yeah. Do you remember your first message that you sent to a WhatsApp group? I know
No.
my first WhatsApp message that I sent, I like, you know how with WhatsApp you go up if you want to delete it. So I record, record, record. No, delete. Record, record, delete. And the whole
I
time,
think
like,
I
you
think
know?
I didn't do that. I think I do. So I have so many interests, and I don't have so much time. I would say, okay, blah, blah, go, and then it's gone. Okay, sometimes,
Nice.
oh my God, but then it is as it is, you know.
That's right. And you can
So I
just
wouldn't.
try to be better. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Learn from your mistakes. So, have you found that when you're speaking and you have some mistakes that you keep making over and over, have you noticed that some of those mistakes have reduced with more practice? Or do you, obviously, we all have some habits that are just really hard to break, but can you hear errors that come out of your mouth while you're speaking?
I can hear it, and sometimes I'm angry with myself because I know it.
Yeah.
In this moment, I say it. I know it. But of
Uh-huh.
course, like you said before, so
Hmm.
habits are very difficult
Hmm.
to get rid of.
Exactly.
Um,
Hmm.
Sometimes, I try to have a pencil or something nearby to write something down
Hmm.
to remember because someone told me that repetition. I think it's
Hmm.
boring, kind of. But
Hmm.
on the other hand, it's necessary. So
Yeah, it
when I
is.
realize that there are some mistakes, they occur over and over again.
Hmm.
Um, you have to I don't know the word, for example, reprogram your brain.
Pretty much.
Um,
Yeah,
and you
it's
have to
like
do this.
rewire your thoughts or
Yes,
rewire your brain.
and
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is gonna happen with repetition.
yeah.
Okay. So,
I remember there was a word, I can't remember why I was talking about my hand so much, but there was the word in Spanish for hand is the opposite. So it's mano, and it should, in theory, if it ends with an O, it should be el mano, but it's not. It's la mano. And my brain could not break this habit. And I kept saying it wrong, incorrectly, incorrectly, incorrectly. And every time I would stop and say, no, la mano, la mano. And I just, kept working on it, and eventually it helped. And now, I mean, I still make a mistake, especially if I'm tired, but it's okay.
mm,
I feel a lot better now. So sometimes you have to focus on one error if it keeps coming up and give it more attention, but eventually it goes away. So that's good. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Birgit, for joining us and sharing your advice. Do you have any last parting words of advice for anybody that maybe needs to build their confidence, or just get out there and do it?
okay. Yeah. Get out there and do it is kind of an advice. But on the other hand, so in my opinion, I think to do different things like reading. Once a
Mhm,
teacher told me reading out loud every
mhm,
day, you
mhm,
realize you can hear when you are so what when you will say something wrong, or you
mhm.
realize when you don't know how to say it, then you can look it up, the pronunciations,
Right.
for example. So reading is a very good tool. So I think you have to do different things.
Yeah.
Speaking, of course,
Mhm,
take action in this kind of conversations, be
mhm,
part of. Maybe next time some other guy is here,
mhm.
a student,
Exactly.
so there
Yeah.
are a lot of opportunities out there to participate in these groups. In your group, for example, your speaking classes, you don't have to talk for an hour as a
Right.
student, but you're
Mhm.
ask some questions and you can give answers. So vary your learning stuff, like
Exactly, because
shadowing. So,
yeah, you can't just speak without any information input either.
yes.
Like if you're not happy with your speaking, it might indicate that you need to practice more speaking. But in general, you have to keep learning in all areas.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I'm just going to bring Miriam on one more. Okay, so thank you so much, ladies. You both did so well. I can see lots of happy comments from people saying how awesome you did. Now it's Birgit's turn. Say, Birgit, you were awesome. Thank you for sharing your advice, your wisdom. and Miriam as well. Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you
Thanks,
so much.
Miriam.
And
Thanks to
we'll
you, Bridget.
see you
Congrats,
guys.
Bridget. Because when I started 2 years ago, I remember Bridget speaking in the group, and now your English is great. I am like, oh gosh, Bridget speaks
What?
very
You know
well.
what? You I don't
Congratulations.
realize it, you know?
Yeah.
I think, okay,
No one.
maybe it improved a little bit.
I do.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, no, I can see an improvement in both of you. It's quite significant, the progression that you guys have made over time. But when we're in our own bubble, we think, oh, I'm not making any progress. I'm not improving. But you know, when we really looked back 1 year ago, how did you feel about speaking? What were the issues that you had? You can see some improvement. Slow but steady, you know.
Okay.
And we're all busy and we don't only focus on English. So what can we expect? Okay. Well, you should both be very proud of the way that you guys are speaking. Okay, so I'll see you guys in the member area, and I'm just going to see if anybody else has some questions and answers for the last few minutes. So we'll see you ladies later. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so that was our lesson about building speaking confidence. And I hope that you guys can see a lot of those emotions that you have with your speaking are very, very normal and typical that most people experience. But the ones that have reached a level like Miriam and Birgit and many of the other members that are in our community, we honestly have a lot of excellent speakers that are there. For example, I saw Nisei was in here. Nisei speaks very, very well. She speaks like a native speaker. And Smith as well. Smith is a very, very well-spoken English speaker. And yeah, maybe next time we can have you guys on if you're brave enough to face the YouTube audience. They're not very mean, so I think that you guys could do it. But anyway, if anybody has any questions that they would like to ask at this point, you can go ahead and post it into the chat. While I'm waiting for some questions to come in, I'm just going to remind you guys that if you want to join us as a member at Real English Conversations, you can head over there and see what the membership options are. We have a free membership, which gives you access to sample lessons. They're full lessons, but sample lessons from each of our courses to try and see what the methodology is and how we learn. And then also, oh, we have a question coming in from someone here. Okay, but you'll also be able to join our member-only events that we have where you can practice with other members like these two ladies that were here, and also with myself or Curtis, join our WhatsApp speaking practice group. Our website isn't just about learning online by yourself. You are part of a community, and as long as you participate and interact with the community, you're going to receive answers back and the communication. Okay, so Curtis, I didn't see, hang on one sec here. Here we are. Okay, so how would we say this name? Manoj, maybe? Sorry if I mispronounced your name, but okay, they would like to know, can I participate in the next live session? So I think if you guys are interested in doing some sort of conversation practice like this, maybe you can send me an email. I might be able to do something where we have some members that can participate. But remember that you guys can join us anytime by becoming a member of our website, we have conversation practices every single week. So you don't need to wait for these live sessions. You can have access to these things as well as the awesome members, or the lessons that we have for our members. So let's see here. Do we have any other questions that have come in from anybody? Just while I'm here. Oh yeah, Andres, you're talking about progress here. So sometimes you don't realize all of the progress that you're doing or you're having until you receive feedback. And that's something interesting over the WhatsApp group. Curtis and Amy always try to give feedback on messages. That's true. We really are helping you guys to see that you're making progress and trying to encourage you guys to speak. If you're practicing, you're going to be improving for sure. Okay, so we've got one here for Ali. Said, hi teacher, what kind of method do I recommend what type of method should I recommend to my students to improve their American English pronunciation? Oh, there are a lot of different methods, but probably one of my favorite ones is with shadowing, and it has to be done in a very specific way. So it's important that you listen to the audio, you have some text, probably just a short sentence to read, and you're helping your student to try to repeat the text at the same time. Where their pronunciation is different or their tone is up or down, for example, you really want them to try to sound as close as they can to the audio. It's important to use slow, clear audio and something that's appropriate for their level. I think that that's really good practice that you can do. Actually, just a couple of days ago, I did a collaboration video with Greg from Online Language Academy, and we talked about shadowing, and I gave a really good detailed description of it. So if you go to our YouTube channel, you're going to see a video about 10 speaking tips that you can do on your own at home. And that one, I can't remember if it's the one on our channel or the one on Greg's channel, but I do explain what shadowing is and how you can do it. Okay, so question here about how much is it to get into your English WhatsApp group. You guys can head over to the website to see the membership options, but we have the monthly payment plan is, I think right now, it's $49 for 4 payments. That's the monthly rate, and there's a 20% discount. So it's $39 for 4 months, okay? And then after that, you have lifetime access, or you can just sign up for the one-time membership. How do I improve my grammar? Well, this is a good question, but you know what? There are more websites teaching grammar on the internet than any other type of English website combined. So what we focus on with our website at Real English Conversations is helping you to improve your listening and speaking skills, because that's actually an area that's very neglected and not focused on for intermediate to advanced learners. So although we don't teach grammar on our website, there are hundreds of grammar websites available with exercises and activities. So I would just look around, try to find one website that you think is useful and has what you need, and try to do some exercises regularly. I think that grammar is maybe 10% of your learning time, and the rest should be speaking, listening, developing vocabulary, because with the grammar, it takes time. You need a little bit of grammar that's useful and relevant rule. Learn it, try to practice it and use it before you move on to learning something else. Okay, and okay, this one here. Hi, Amy. I heard you speak Portuguese. Portuguese, is it true? I can't even speak English. You just heard that. Okay. I started to learn Portuguese last year, and I had to stop because I ended up getting way too busy. I was trying to continue to improve some Spanish aspects, and I was working on Portuguese, and my brain was just not making progress in either language. So I decided to take a break, but I am really interested in learning Portuguese, and I like the language. So yeah, right now I'm not learning it actively, but it is on my list of things to do. Hopefully after this summer, I get my time under control and I can get back to studying some more languages. Okay. All right. So that's it for our questions and answers for today. What I want you guys to do for next week, I'm going to be teaching 10 English expressions or idioms that are modern, the ones that people use every day, expressions that Curtis and I have probably used within the last week, either teaching our students or with each other. And if you are still using the expression, for example, it's raining cats and dogs. Okay, that's an old one. That's definitely an old one. It's not something that people use regularly these days, something that grandparents say or our older generation. So be sure to join us for next week, where I'm going to teach you 10 different expressions, and we're going to practice using them to make sure you understand the structure and the situations where it's appropriate to use. And if you want to check if any of your favorite expressions are still being used in American English, you can post a comment below the video for next week, and we can talk about it in the next lesson, just so we get those outdated ones from the textbook that was printed in 1920 out of the way. And we teach you guys some modern English so that you actually sound cool when you're using some of these expressions, just like the native speakers do. So thank you so much for joining us today, and the 32 people that are still here watching. Thank you again for your support. Please leave subscribe to our channel if you're not subscribed. Give us a thumbs up on our videos. That's really, really helpful for us and our YouTube channel. And we'll see you guys next time.